Hello, my name's Tom Cahill. It's Tuesday, the 13th of December 2013. Now, whilst I appreciate that it happened a little while ago, I'd just like to make a very quick video that focuses on one particular point that, partly with the help of somebody else, I came to realise was actually one of the big, massive nails in Brian Gerrish's coffin and his existence as a COINTELPRO change agent working to subvert the British, in a traitorous manner to subvert the British constitution, British way of life, and pull us into the EU superstate. And this is one thing that he had a lot of involvement with, and he pushed a lot. Whilst I don't know who was actively involved on the day, and I'll explain how this happened, but it was in my face all the time, and I never realised it. And it's all about positioning and the way through creating a focus of an enemy or a perceived problem which you don't properly define, possibly deliberately, so there's flaws with the definition of it. People then fixate on the problems with the situation, think there's something dodgy about it, but don't then look at the wider problem because they're fixating on the smaller micro problem. Now, I'm talking about Roger Hayes' efforts to arrest the judge in a council tax dispute, or an alleged council tax dispute, which I say wasn't a council tax dispute. It was over. It was an insolvency. It was a bankruptcy thing. He'd already been made bankrupt, or he was an undischarged bankrupt, something like that. It was not a trial, so don't let that confuse you. What happened was, there was lots wrong with that thing, because for a start off, if you go to court to get made bankrupt, you can either go to prison if you don't cooperate with it and don't pay it, or you get a fine. Now, he went to prison and he apparently was made to pay it. It didn't really make any sense, because he didn't go to, the whole thing was very confusing. It didn't really make sense. And people focused on that quite rightly. But the problem is they focused on that and then they didn't zoom back out of it and say, well, hang on a minute. Why has this got all these problems with it? Never mind what the problems are, because it doesn't make sense. Why are the problems with it? Now, if you zoom back out of it, right, now, Brian, I have only just sort of nailed it now. The UK Constitution Group, right, is run by this monkey called Roger Hayes, right? Roger Hayes has got, low intelligence. He's very pompous. He loves himself. And he's so stupid that even when he's doing something that makes himself look irreversibly stupid in all the people who've ever known him, he'll just plow on with it because he's so big-headed, probably deeply insecure underneath it. He'll just plow on with it, which would probably explain his alleged constant drinking, which instead of just going, yeah, I like a drink, he just tries to deny and say it's defamation, but everybody says he does it. Now, I think that Brian has this British Constitution Group separate, yet at the same time kind of sharing a website with him in a similar manner to how, like, say, lots of Ponzi schemes have an advertising agent advertising their Ponzi stuff that they're selling, which are not even possibly doesn't exist. And then I have the other company, and it's this compartmentalisation. So they've got an element of plausible deniability. Well, Roger does that, but it's nothing to do with me. So I don't actually think Brian Gerrish ever went up to Birkenhead to arrest the judge, but he was behind it, and he kept giving it lots of coverage afterwards. So he never said, I disapprove of it. He never said, it's wrong, you shouldn't have done it. He definitely didn't say that. He was very much aligning himself with it and putting himself next to it, whilst he would always pull himself away from it. Now, what I think Brian was doing there, right? And I'd listen, Roger Hayes hasn't got the intelligence, hasn't got enough intelligence to do anything, right? He hasn't. He's an idiot, right? So he hasn't organised anything. I can tell you that for a fact. What's happened is, right, as with an interview with David Noakes that happened years ago, or a few years ago, and he said that it's interesting, in Portcullis House, all the MPs have surrounded themselves with, like, armed police with machine guns. In England now, there's an increasing number of places where there's, an armed presence. And it occurred to me that in magistrates' courts, you've got these big, like, bloated Group 4 type securities. Is it Group 4 or something does the security in the courts? So you've got, like, some guy who's just sat round, just bored out of his brains, who'll, like, tell people to leave about once a day or something like that. yeah, fair enough, right? You get them in offices. Transport for London has a lot more security, which is weird, and they even enforce this security against people who work for Transport for London. If you're in a building that you're not allowed to be in, because you've got to get sort of like, you've got to go through the scanners and you've got to like explain why you're there, even if you work for the company. So they keep the different organs separate, which would seem very strange until you start like linking it to things like 7-7 and the tubes blowing up and the fact that TfL, there's probably people in TfL who are very much involved with it. So that's an interesting little point. The point is that you don't have people with guns in the High Court even. You don't, and to be honest with you, that's actually quite strange, because you would think that you could say, well, yeah, get some people with armed. There is no one with guns. They put you through an airport scanner type thing, but it's quite fast. You can dot in and out. It's not like an airport check-in. You could be in and out of there like a flash all the time. Now, as you realise, there's not really any evidence of anyone ever blowing up any planes. Yet they still have this situation in the airports, all this fucking around, taking your shoes off, taking your belt off, taking like water, and they're saying that women with big tits might actually be hiding bombs in pretend tits. All this nonsense, right? This is the kind of thing the government's happy to spend trillions of pounds on, just to completely confuse people and make them feel like complete monkeys, because they know on a deeper level they've been made fools of. Your subconscious is impervious to bullshit. You've got to understand this. It's impervious to bullshit. It can't be tricked. So they know that you're effectively subjugating yourself when you go along with these ridiculous measures, especially if you don't even have the self-respect to even sort of give lips, make a joke of them or something like that. That's deeply depressing to your sort of soul, if you like. Now, with Brian, what Brian has tried to do, with this arrest the judge nonsense, is he has used a tactic where he's got all these people, or his company, his affiliate association, which he controls, by the way, right? He's tried to get all these people to go up to Birkenhead to arrest the judge. So therefore, what would have been, well, it wouldn't have been unthinkable, because it does make a bit of sense you should have armed guards in courts. But what would have been unthinkable, because nobody ever saw the need for it, because there's never been any need, in one movement, and let's say this 350 people or 300 claim of all these people going up there, if you add that up, right, single-handedly, one change agent, one communist subversive change agent, Brian Gerrish, has managed to put in place a better justification for putting in security scanners, police with machine guns like in the airports, and all that stuff, just with one peaceful, he hasn't gone around assassinating anyone or anything like that, with one peaceful manoeuvre, he's used a bit of very clever subversion, very, very, very clever subversion, to actually put a position in place that if I went to my MP and said, I think this is ridiculous, I would like to say that next time, I'm in a court case, I don't want the judge or the magistrate scared that people are going to come in and assault them and kidnap them. I think I'm insisting if I go to court, I don't want them put under that pressure. I want them to be able to think straight. I want there to be, some army in there. He's not actually putting you in a position where you're that far from it. Now, lots of countries, you do have soldiers and stuff in court buildings. And who could blame them for putting them there? Now, as you might realise, that England has always been quite a place where they put in subtle tactics. They don't go with a heavy-handed route. In certain countries, they think nothing of having 3 police forces, one for paramilitary, one for this, one for that. In loads of European countries, this is quite normal. Now, in England, we've never put up with it, and I know that's got a historical basis with, what was it, the Bakerloo riots or something, where they used the army and they came in and chopped some people up with swords, and therefore they won't even have police wearing militaristic uniforms. It's taken years, centuries for this to be reversed. This arrest a judge business, right, the thing in Birkenhead was enough. That could have brought about the change. Now, a lot of people told me they think that Brian is trying to orchestrate violent revolution. I actually think that's also true in certain instances, and I can explain that more, because I believe that's a Soloninsky trick. You victimize people so they create a violent backlash, because it's a natural to eventually do that. However, even if you just look at it in a much more subdued, calmed down fashion, what Brian managed to organise that day was classic and highly, highly, highly effective programming of a group of people who didn't really know what they were going up there to do. And all of those people could quite easily have been responsible. And literally, it's very efficient. You know, they've just had 1 half day off work. They've gone up there. They don't even know what they're doing. They've just been told, get up there, it'll be good. They could have thought about the arming of court security guards. They could have brought that in one action. Now, if you work that out, pound for penny, right, that's one of the most efficient bits of like subversion, which could have drastically changed your rights in the country, yeah? Because let's say we've got a court case, people will say, I'd like someone to go just, or a couple of people to go just to watch to make sure there's no corruption, blah, blah, blah. You could quite easily have a situation happening where they'd say, look, you're only, you know, this is just a court case over £10,000. We can't justify having like, man marking all these people you want to be allowed to come in and watch the court case. You're going to have to fund it. It would end up being like football games where the Premiership teams or whatever team, they have to pay the police to put like 60,000 or whatever it is, 5,000 officers to police a game or whatever it is. I don't even know what the figures are. In court cases where money was at stake or people go to prison and stuff like that, they could quite easily say, look, no, you can't have witnesses just rolling in. They've got to make an appointment first because we got to know how many court security officers, and they could roll out huge defence contracts, you know, like for people like Group 4, and they could justify having armed police in courts. That's what they could easily do. I'm glad that he hasn't managed to do it in the High Court, right? But on a few occasions, he has actually been to High Court, ruining people's court cases at the High Court. Now, it makes me think that, again, there was lots of problems with these court cases, often because there were family cases, so there was things about witnesses and stuff like that not being allowed in, and, you know, the reporting of the cases they weren't allowed to talk about. Point is that if Brian had once managed to get people angry about any of the stuff going on there, and this is where I knew it was wrong, and I knew he'd support the Holly Gregg case, even if she was abused or not. I knew that that was very suspect because obviously she's severely mentally impaired and there's no way she'd be a reliable witness against anything. So you might as well just put her to the bottom of the witness list, whatever the thing was that which is this issue, however serious it might potentially be. And Belinda McKenzie was very, very keen to push this. It makes me think that this is a move to tighten up the court process and stop people from being able to go in there. Now, when you link this with Belinda McKenzie's, pardon the pun, Mackenzie's Friends Association or something that she's backed, with definite COINTELPRO Tony Farrell, who it appears has been working for the police the whole time, even though he said that they kicked him out. What could that be all revolved around? Because she's never given anybody help with being a Mackenzie's friend. All she does is we need support, we need interest, we need people to be angry because bad things are going on. What they'll be doing is they'll be trying to encourage people to go up to court, get really angry, and start shouting at judges like Brian does, cross-examining judges like Brian does when he's not even he just turned up and he said he's a Mackenzie's friend, and they're not allowed to do that. All of this stuff in the court system, I have now seen it for what it is, right? And all of it is to tighten up the court system so it becomes much less like our flawed, yet on a good day, very good legal system, on a good day, because it's not always good. I'm not saying it's always good. And they're trying to replace it with a communistic situation where you'll just go in there and they'll go, right, 10 years, fuck off, bring him down to the docks, or sorry, shoot him in the back of the head, whatever. That's what they're trying to bring in. I know it's not going to come in tomorrow, but the things they've been doing would give a good justification for lots of these things happening. Because he's trying to make the whole concept of having a defence and an attack and a kind of dialogue, flawed as it may be, he's trying to remove that by just attacking the institution and the rule of law. Effectively, he is attacking the rule of law. You might get bench judges. Of course you get bench judges. I wouldn't have it any other way. Any situation where you've got people involved, you get corruption. That's a fact. It doesn't matter what it is. And if anybody's stupid enough to think that high court judges would be the kind of people who'd be, you know, if you're motivated to want to be like in charge and be in charge of stuff, you're obviously going to get more corrupt people doing that than, say, working in a library. That's a fact. And of course, I don't want kind of people who just would want to work in a library being high court judges, because they'd just be there like completely like, you know, they're not the right people to do that type of job. I'd sooner take my chances with the ones who are a little bit more megalomaniacal and want to change things, because they're going to show more interest. You know, if they're reading a brief that's 350 pages long, and they're just used to, oh yeah, whatever, draw my book out, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying all librarians are lazy either, but the point is, you've got to realise, to get the right calibre of people, you need to have people who've got a bit of and people with a bit of are often a bit more vindictive, a bit more nasty. They've got more potential flaws. You know, they're slightly a bit more megalomaniacal, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. But the point is that if you attack that institution in the manner that he has been doing, he's been getting other people to do it, what he's doing is you're attacking it in the wrong manner. It is the wrong manner, because you're effectively attacking an institution which you're intrinsically linked with. You've been linked to since you've been a little kid, because it's just like the politicians, you're linked to them. It's just like the police, you're linked to them. Everybody in the whole country will know someone who they grew up with who went into the police, or probably several people. Everybody knows someone who became a lawyer. Everybody knows somebody who became a counsellor. Everybody knows someone who became all of these different things, even if you're like, you know,